We're going to head out, and I'd like to start a new series of really breaking down some of our favorite stand locations on the property here and how they've contributed to our overall hunting, how we use them, how they fit in with the rest of the property and the layout. This is a really cool one because it's a post-daybreak stand entrance, something I've been talking about for a long time, writing articles back in the day. But there's really no set time that's a best time to go into a stand location in the morning. It depends on when the deer aren't there. That means that some of these open field crossings to get into a morning stand, it's by far best to enter those stand locations after daybreak, half hour after, 45 minutes, and then wait for those fields to clear and head right directly into the stand. So that is one of those stands that we can't get into before daybreak, or we're just going to spook a bunch of deer. So we're going to go see how this fits in, and I'm excited to show you because it culminated in an incredible post-daybreak stand hunt last season for a buck we call the broken buck. But check out this strategy. I think you'll enjoy this one. Well, this brings back some memories. Last year, it was early November, coming in for a rut hunt, and I actually parked the Quiet Cat about 250 yards behind me, and I was able to walk straight across. And you can see this whole edge right here is lined with switchgrass, so that helps greatly, because if there's a buck over there or a deer in general 80 yards away, I can sneak right through this tunnel that Dylan's about to walk through and get into the stand. The stand is literally only about 15 yards into the woods, and that's what we have a lot of this, and that's the whole idea of the switchgrass right here. We have this switchgrass border. Let's say it's 40 feet wide right here. Well, that makes the deer feel really comfortable close to this field edge on the inside because they can't see out, we can't see in. Helps us maximize the depth that we have going down into the hollow here, which is our land all the way down and back up the other side. So it pulls those deer out to this field edge. What likes to bed next to the field edge? Does and fawns. So those does and fawns can bed as close to this field edge as possible, and that maximizes the amount of depth we have and the amount of bedding cover we have on the inside, which can be taken over by bucks. So I'm walking in, we're going straight into a stand. I come into this with the wind in my face. I go through a little sneak trail right through here, come into behind the stand. I'm not going through any deer trails to get in here. And you can see this stand right here. We only, with the family tradition ladder, I only used 4 sections. So it's 16 feet up instead of 20, but that's where our cover was. And we're looking down to a bench that's approximately 6 or 7 feet below the stand location. So really we're shooting at a height of probably 22 feet up, looking down at that water hole. So I'm able to come into this. The switchgrass is literally 25 feet away. So I can come into here and go down to this stand location. What I'm looking at is a bench in this bench movement right here, right in front of the stand. It doesn't take very long, just 25 yards back, and this drops off completely. So unless the deer are really in this probably 100-yard bubble, when I come in up on this bench, then I'm not going to spook anything, and I didn't that morning. So it's pretty cool to walk right in here, and that's how we use this stand. What's really nice, because this drops off so fast, I could use this in the morning with the wind going that way, because it blows right up and over the deer, or I can use this with the wind blowing that way, which makes for a cold sit. And what's interesting, and just, you know, a little bit of note is, when we're parking the bike 250 yards away, it's 22 degrees in the morning, 24, and then we walk into a stand like this 250 yards, you have 0 time to get heated up. And what I've really noticed about that is I really, you know, there's something to be said for not being so sweaty getting into a stand, but when you're sweaty going into a stand, you're warm for the first 45 minutes. And if you wear good moisture wicking material like we do, all the layers from First Light merino wool, then we sit here and an hour later you're dry. So I would rather walk in heated up, because what happens is when you don't walk in heated up, your boots don't get a chance to, your feet don't get a chance to get heated up, your fingers, with me being diabetic, having a little neuropathy, my toes and hands get a lot colder faster. So I'd rather be warm coming in. Bottom line though, we get to the stand location and then it's game on. And I like a stand like this because with a water hole in this whole setup, then it's the perfect all-day rut stand if we want to hunt in here. I'm not saying I don't hunt here in the evening, we have, but man, morning is just perfect, because a lot of times these bucks, especially in a hill situation like this, they're cruising this upper level. And what happened is I ended up shooting the buck at 11:30. And that's the thing about a water hole that's so different than a food plot. I'm not going to come into a small food plot and watch that all day, but I will come into a water hole and watch that all day. Water hole is an all-day movement. A food plot's not. That's why I do not recommend, in about 95% of all cases, putting a water hole on a food plot, because you don't bring the food plot to the level of the water hole. You bring the water hole down to the level of the food plot. Food plot is more of an afternoon sit. If you go in at first morning, you spook them out. Water hole, I can come into this, and that buck, when they cruise through, they're usually here for a half a minute or less. They're just moving through. They get a drink, and they keep going. A lot of times, even during the rut, they're just cruising through looking for does, because they know it's a doe hangout too. So in the case of the buck that I shot, I'm not even sure he was gonna stop. I didn't give him time to. I shot him. So when they're coming through in this water hole, we have constructed bedding in that corner right over there, a bunch of aspen, and on that point, and then that way, about 150 yards away, there's a small food plot where I shot bow 2 years ago. So they routinely move through this area. I came in here and sat, and it was about 9:30. I planned to sit here till about 11 or 12. I'm sure I picked a time. I always like to pick a time and then get out of here. And I saw the broken buck right down there about 25 yards in. And so he's 25 yards in, and he went by, couldn't get a shot down there, and he went that way. We get that way, eventually about 150, 200 yards away, gets into some more open fields, some open woods, and I had a feeling he'd come back. I sent Jen a message and I said, hey, that broken buck was in here. You know, I saw him, you know, and that's the buck I wanted. And so I was pretty excited. And she even said, and I'd already thought of, you know, I'm probably gonna have to sit all day, because I just figured he'd come back. And that was maybe 9:30, 9, somewhere around there. And sure enough, at 11:30, there was a 10-point that came through, I think a 3-year-old. They came through right on the trail they should. 10-point went right by. Now this is only like 13, 14 yards from the stand at that point, so they're pretty close. But he came right here. I shot, hit him high. He rolled right here, and that was the end of the hunt. But it's all supposed to work out that way. Water hole, great reason to sit here all day. You know, I had planned to sit all day at that point. I didn't plan before I came in, so I did not have anything to drink. I did not have snacks. I wasn't planning on sitting all day. I guess poor planning on my part, but I was going to sit all day here because I thought it was a great opportunity with that buck after watching him go by at like 45 yards from the stand and not being able to get a shot. Great access. We don't spook anything coming in. It's set up for that. Great movement between small food over there, because even if they're not going through that during the daylight, a lot of times they'll skirt the edge, the back side of it. And sometimes we do have them go through during the day, but they'll skirt that and look for does. So this, for rut cruising, this is incredible. Early season, if they're coming in hitting water on the way out to green food out in the fields, great opportunity. But with the constructed bedding over there, the food over there, the switchgrass up top, designed to pull deer up here. Now if this was, they could just look out to open field right up there, a lot less likely they're cruising through here during the day. There used to be a food plot in this corner. The previous owner had a redneck blind sitting right in the middle of the food plot. And you can imagine those deer, it turned this whole corner into just afternoon use, right before dark. So by putting 1.5 acres of switchgrass here instead of a food plot, maximizing the bedding here with all the cutting, and then putting it together with all these pieces, the switchgrass making the deer feel more comfortable open to the field, it's the great recipe for understanding the timing of getting in and out of the stand. And you know, I could really care less that the stand's only 16 feet high, and you can even see the platforms probably at right about 15 feet. So pretty cool to come in. You don't have to be really high in the stand. We're only hunting this a handful of times a year, so deer aren't used to looking up there, seeing anything. And because the water hole, they're just simply moving right through, a lot different than a food plot where they can sit there for a half hour and eventually pick you off. So I hope this strategy makes sense. Dylan, if you're thinking of anything else you could add to it, but
I mean, this is like the perfect kind of pre-rut and rut setup where you're not right on bedding, you're in between bedding, on a water source, a long ways from food, this just makes a lot of sense for a buck to be here.
Yeah, and I guess I should mention that we have the little plot over here we call the apple plot, and then we have Jack's plot, which is about, the apple plot's about 1/3 of an acre. Jack's plot's about 1 acre, and then about 600 yards past that we have what we call Gold Rush. That's about a 2.5 to 3 acre system. And so we're really tucked back here in a corner away from food, which is where I like to be all day, near bedding. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this stand breakdown. We'll bring some other ones. We have, of course, some really hot favorites out here. This was designed, and we knew we'd shoot something here in this location. It's just too good not to. It's one of those where you put together and you think, man, this is going to be a lot of fun. And we've had a lot of fun so far, and we'll probably bring some more of this stand location to you this fall and beyond. Hey guys, I wanted to add to the end of this video, Father's Day weekend. I believe it's June 14th, that's Saturday. The Saturday of Father's Day weekend, we have our Kicking Bear event. It's $250 per person for the Habitat Day. It's about a 7-8 hour event. We have food for a little bit of breakfast, lunchtime, and we take a tour of the property out here. Every dime we raise from everything, we have a hunt raffle that we do for a 3-day hunt here at the end of September with Jen and I staying with our family. But every dime we raise goes to Kicking Bear. It's a great cause. We'll have some details for signing up. You contact Jessi, she'll get you signed up. You can look for that in the description. So make sure not to miss that. We love meeting people. This will be the 5th year. In this 5th year, we plan to eclipse $100,000 that we've raised at this event for Camp Kicking Bear. We're at over 80,000 right now. So we should be able to hit that. And we really appreciate you guys, and I know Kicking Bear and the organization does too.